I have not been to Minnesota in probably 20 years.
Bring gas. Welcome to Flagrant Howls, a Minnesota Timberwolves lifestyle podcast.
And these incoming hottest Wolves takes, as we do every week, that's the Sports Dad, I'm Phil, are presented in part by Nicolay Law, the exclusive personal injury law firm of Flagrant Howls and also Purple Daily. Nicolay Law knows that when you or a loved one gets injured, ordinary life can come to a stop. Things can get complicated. That's where Russell Nicolay and his wonderful team step in to offer a guiding hand, help you get the compensation you deserve after an accident. So if you've been injured, get Minnesota's local award-winning injury lawyers, NicolayLaw.com, or give them a call at 1-855-NICOLAY. It's weird to have like 5 days between Wolves games, you know?
NBA Cup, baby. NBA Cup scheduling.
Can I give you like a pre-hottest take on the NBA Cup?
Sure.
Like I have the official hottest take that involves
Yeah, you don't want this to be taken
Yeah.
as your official hottest take. I get it.
I am irrationally annoyed and disappointed that the Wolves didn't make it through group play and at least get to like the bracket part of the NBA Cup. I really want to hang another banner inside Target Center, and my bar is NBA Cup. That's all.
And they didn't even come close.
No. Well, that's what happens when you lose to Portland, and you know. So I'm just, come on, like, can we at least get out of group play here and make something happen in the bracket? I'm annoyed by it. Very much annoyed by it.
So a couple of weeks ago I think it was on the Monday on Chain with Royce, he actually had some good insider info about this. He said that his spies have told him that the Lakers were forced to hang the banner when they won the cup, that was not their choice. That so like that, because it was like, what are you doing? Patrick said that he was told that the NBA is like, no, this is a sanctioned.
We need to make this a thing.
Yeah, we need to make this fetch a thing. You got to hang the banner up. Which actually made a lot more sense, because it was like, that started embarrassing for the Lakers. But yeah, the league wants you, so make no mistake, if the Wolves had advanced, if the Wolves had won, there would have been a banner hanging. And it's so sad too when you go to Wolves games and you look up in the rafters, right? And on one side you got the Lynx, rich history, retired numbers left and right, HOF, championships. Like, there's not enough room. And then you look at the Wolves, and God rest their souls, Flip's name is up there, and Malik Sealy, who
so
again.
It's two dead people. It's not to be callous.
Well, and Flip, Flip would have been up there at some point in time. I think he does. He meant a lot. Not that Malik didn't, but yeah, I mean, he died tragically in a car accident. He should still be alive, retired today. And, the Wolves might have brought him back to wave to the crowd. But I mean, other than that, dude, there is it's basically barren on that side of the arena.
We don't really hang division banners in the NBA, right? Like that's.
I'm trying to think. Is there a division banner? Now the Wild hangs theirs, which is also like yellowed by now. That's the other sad thing. When's
the last time they won the division?
They won that. I think it was the Northwest at the time, in like 2006 or something.
So like almost 20 years.
And
I feel like we might have because the Wolves have won one division, and no one really even like knows what the divisions are.
Hung
That might be from 2003, 2004. We might have. I think there's a division champions or Western Conference Finals, but and again, like the NBA Cup, we're trying to make it a thing. I think it's cool because November and December NBA basketball is usually just like an uninteresting wasteland. It's NFL territory,
right?
So I do applaud the NBA trying to make it a thing, but Well, European soccer, you've got the the main whatever you call it. I'm such a not soccer fan, but the Euro League that they like Tottenham and Arsenal, all those teams, and the Premier League.
Okay, yeah.
But they also have like FA Cup and the Champions League. They have these other tournaments that happen.
It's nuts.
So I'm okay with trying to make a tournament happen. Feels like a lot of people disagree, though.
Well, it's
Feels
done
like a
by
lot of people
Christmas.
just want.
It's done by Christmas. Of all the things that I feel strongly about in sports, and there's lots, that one I'm fine with it. They're just trying. Look, their season's too long. Okay,
Yeah.
so like they're trying to invent something. Well, I don't have a problem with that. And I mean, the only thing I don't like about the Cup is some of the courts, because I think they're incredibly ugly. Like I thought the Wolves court was hideous.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not
green?
usually I'm not usually a Grinch when it comes to that stuff, but it's like,
But it did look like the Grinch. Like the Wolves looked like they were paying tribute to the Grinch who stole Christmas.
Yeah. Okay. Now to the real hottest takes. All right.
Yeah, that take was not that hot. I thought that was a conversational thing more.
Okay. That's
I
fine.
wouldn't say you
warm up.
You threw like a fastball for strike one, but that was not like oh my god.
It wasn't like an up and in.
Yeah, exactly.
So okay, and we're this is a weekly thing now here. I think this is the fourth week that we're gonna make this. We're gonna make this a thing on Flagrant Howls the last month and going forward. Our hottest Wolves takes every week. Our guy Declan is in Maui vacationing. Our guy Kyle is just getting back from Hawaii. He'll be on the show tomorrow.
Us sitting in
We're
the
just
cold
here. It's 0 degrees right now. So Karl-Anthony Towns. Here's a preface to my hottest take. Karl-Anthony Towns. 25 points a game right now with the Knicks, the most he has scored for scoring average in 6 years. 13 and a half rebounds a game, which up until like 2 days ago was leading the league in rebounding average. Somebody passed him, but that is the most rebounds he's ever averaged in a season. He's shooting 45% from three-point range, the best three-point percentage he's ever shot. He's shooting 53% from the field, which is the best field goal percentage since 2018 for him. So go back 7 years.
Wow.
And there's a bunch of other like analytical things. He's having a wildly efficient offensive season. The Knicks are like 6 games above 500 now. And I say all that to say, for my hottest Wolves take, it is foolish to regret the Cat trade. I've heard a lot of chatter here lately. You know, the Wolves kind of starting 500-ish. The Julius Randle Gobert stuff that we have exhausted from like 3 weeks ago. But I just like for those who need to hear it, you weren't going any further with Karl-Anthony Towns as one of your 2 centerpieces on this team. The Western Conference Finals was the peak of an Ant, Cat, Gobert, peripheral pieces team. In fact, when you got to the Western Conference Finals, let's not forget, don't let Cat daggering a depleted Raptors team the first week in December on a Monday this week and popping his jersey like the Knicks just went to the NBA Finals for the first time in 25 years.
That's right.
I know that was tough to watch as a Wolves fan. He hits this 3 from the top of the key. He ices that game. It's the Raptors, who are 7-19, I believe, depleted, injuries, on a Monday night in December. Like, we've seen him drop 60 on the Hornets on a Wednesday. We've seen him dagger the Hawks. This is what movies is made of, right? Like, we've seen all that stuff.
Yeah, I didn't like that one.
In the first 3 games of the Western Conference Finals, when you need your best players to deliver at least like an average performance, he shot 27% in those first 3 games. He left you no choice as a franchise but to look at his playoff body of work, culminated with those 3 games, to bury you against the Mavericks and say, wow, we are in the second apron. He is 29 years old with injury problems, whose performance regresses in the playoff games that you need him to rise up for. And he's going to be making $50, $55, $60 million as he ages into his 30s. So again, like, awesome. I'm actually happy that he is performing this way in New York. I want to see him do well. But if you are regretting the Cat trade, and there's more to this too, but like, he gave them no choice the way he played in the Western Conference Finals. If we want to take this to the next level, it can't be with him making that big of a percentage of a salary cap where you're in the second apron and it hamstrings your ability to build your roster. So that's my hottest. I'm pushing back at the buyer's remorse for my hottest take today.
Well, and I think short term, it's very simple to be upset about the trade right now. I mean, it's largely, it's funny, we focus, and I understand why, on Randle, but the reality is it's DiVincenzo's struggles that really make this tough, because he is the long-term guy, and I expect way more from him. But all of that being said, and we've talked about this, the catch rate is part and parcel of, do you want to be able to keep guys and make moves for the future? Like, if you want if you are saying right now that, man, Cat, they shouldn't have gotten rid of him, they should have kept him, then when Naz Reid walks out the door, when Na walks out the door, you can't complain. So now those two probably, unless they elect to, and I think Naz for sure will not, unless they elect to leave, they will stay. So like you have to, this whole thing was never just about the immediate gratification of, we got DiVincenzo and Randle and we're better. This was about, how do we want to set ourselves up? Now, if you want to have a conversation about who you pay the max to, like, because, you could have said with Cat, all right, do we want to do this or not? Like you can make choices. In the going way back, they made the choice to pay Cat, but Tim Connolly looked at that and he said, first of all, there's a couple of guys I want to keep, and second of all, and this is where baseball would benefit from aprons. That the second apron is not about you being cheap. The second apron is about paralyzing your ability to make moves.
Yes, 100%. Well, there's money. There's like,
it's not like you're saving.
There's a money aspect as well, because being in the second apron and not having like a luxury arena to sort of make up for some of it. I have been told, I reported this, we don't like report things often on the show here. We're just idiots with microphones, but like,
you reported it.
I had heard that the Glenn Taylor was prepared to and greenlit taking up to a 9-figure loss on this year's team because of the second apron. Now they made that Cat trade, and we'll see if they get sort of underneath first, second apron here in the months and couple years ahead. But to the point you just outlined, your choices after Western Conference Finals last year were keep running it back another year, see what happens, but essentially keep a 29-year-old Karl-Anthony Towns under contract, $50 to $60 million a year as he ages out through the next 4 years of that contract, have roster building issues because of the second apron. But you get the Ant-Cat pairing for another, like, maybe 2-3 years if you keep those guys together. Can they win a championship together is what Tim Connolly has to answer. I think the answer is no. I think it was awesome that they made that run last year, but they had to do some other things to get to another level. Or you can say goodbye to Cat, which they did, which allows you to keep Naz Reid and Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who are younger and align more with Anthony Edwards' like age timeline. And by the way, I know he hasn't played well yet, but like as a shooter, but Dante DiVincenzo, also a really, really team-friendly contract for the next 3 seasons. And it might be a little clunky in that first year while you transition away from the familiar Karl-Anthony Towns and you try to see if Julius Randle can work. Maybe you flip him at the deadline or say goodbye to him. I don't think there was any promise that this trade is going to lead to an immediate run to the NBA Finals and championship in year 1, and if not, it's a failure. This trade was for a 5-year window, and I don't think we should get all bent out of shape because Cat is daggering the Raptors on a Monday the first week in December.
Oh, it's a movie.
This is what movies are made of.
It's a movie. It's a movie.
So, by the way, one more thing on this, on the Julius Randle front. If you decide in the next couple months, it's not really working, and he has an opt-out, so he can just become a free agent anyways.
Right.
Does that sound familiar? Because 2 years ago, the Wolves had a guy that put up nice box scores, and you thought he was going to be a better fit than maybe he was, but he really couldn't mesh with Rudy, which is also a parallel. Opt-out at the end of the year, chance to be a free agent. So he was basically a rental player, and Tim Connolly flipped D'Angelo Russell, the player I'm talking about, for Mike Conley and Nickeil Alexander-Walker.
Yep. So
I'm curious, does he wind up flipping Julius Randle for something of value before the trade deadline? He's already done it with multiple different other trades.
And you just set me up perfectly for my hottest Wolves take, which is The answer to your question is yes. Specifically, he gets flipped in a trade, and you need this, that the Wolves need to flip Julius Randle in a trade that brings you back a point guard. You need a point guard. Mike Conley is being rested. He should be. I also, quite frankly, don't think he can play, and this goes way back. He can't play as much as he did last season. Like, that was a gift, okay? But the reality is and what matters here is your head coach does not trust, when he comes back, Rob Dillingham enough, because he's the answer. But if Chris Finch is going to be like, well, I don't trust it, guess what? The answer don't matter. And I'm not saying this has to be a high-profile, great player. I'm not saying that this has to be an, oh, my God, this is a huge splash trade. But in flipping Julius Randle, I think you need to get a point guard back, because I think if this team wants to have success in the playoffs, and I do think that they will make it, that they need somebody behind Conley who can come in and run the show. And I honestly think Conley probably is going to miss time here at some point. Like, he's clearly hobbled. And I'm not convinced in the game a couple of nights ago when it all fell apart against Golden State on Sunday, Phil, that was like Chris Finch saying Conley's not playing for sure. I wouldn't be surprised if there was something up as well. Like, he's old. He's too old.
You're too old.
You're too old. So I think the answer to your question, or the answer to your point is yes, I think they need to flip Randle. I think they need to acquire a point guard that they trust, that Chris Finch trusts, behind Conley, who can occasionally step in and start perhaps, because the Dillingham thing clearly is not working. It doesn't mean it won't work ever, but you can't have a team that could potentially be this good and be like, but I don't trust the guy that you drafted 8th. Okay, there has to be an alternative. The alternative right now does not exist. It needs to exist.
It's interesting in that, I mean, I would take, if there's anything of value that you thought was like for a 3-year window instead of this year, I would trade Julius. I would look to trade Julius Randle, even if it meant like, hey, you might be a little worse this season. I don't think the Wolves need to go beyond where they were last year to validate anything. If you look at what the Nuggets were kind of when Tim Connelly was building them, it was be really competitive for like 7 years. Go maybe make a little run here. Okay, take a breath. First round exit. It's not always linear. So I wouldn't be making desperate moves for like an all-in season this year. I would be mindful of 3-5 years from now. I don't know how this could even work necessarily, but I will throw it out there.
Oh, but with cover.
Speculation.
Yeah. Major cover.
Okay, so you've got cover.
Speculation.
This would not be a 1-for-1 trade, because the team that I would bring to the table here, I don't think they would want Julius Randle. So you'd have to have like a 3 or 4 team trade.
Sure.
And somebody would have to value like Randle's expiring contract, looking for some cap relief.
Yep.
Which is where it gets a little complicated for the Wolves, because like they might be also looking to just get rid of the $29 million so they can for sure stay below the second apron. So there's a lot of complicated factors here, but there's a lot of rumblings with underachieving Sacramento and De'Aaron Fox, their point guard.
Oh, you did go there.
Who has 1 more year left on his contract after this year. So he's at 34 and a half now. Julius is 29, so that matches close enough. And then 37 million next year. Could you imagine a starting backcourt of De'Aaron Fox and Anthony Edwards offensively? And then Conley and Dillingham, he's 19. So like
I'm not saying he's a bust. To be very clear, I'm saying the head coach doesn't trust him right now, and I think this team is too good to say the guy that we thought was going to be Conley's backup simply can't play. That's what I'm saying.
It's fascinating. And again, you couldn't just go to the Kings and be like, do you want Julius Randle? They'd be like, no. So there'd have to be like a third team involved, get something of value. I'd have to workshop this.
Could happen.
The other problem you'd run into here is you aren't, in terms of size, you've already said goodbye to Cat.
Right.
And you got much shorter in Julius Randle profiles much more like a small forward in some ways at like 6'8".
Right.
So you'd say goodbye to him for a point guard, and now your bigs would be Gobert, who could miss some games with injury here and there, and he's the only shot blocker on the team. And then Naz Reid would start and be in a higher profile position, and those guys play off each other really well. But then, like, who's your third big? And don't tell me Luka Garza. Zero defense. I love Luka Garza, but like you need like another shot blocker, rim protector type if you could find one somewhere. But if the team started with, hey, we got De'Aaron Fox and Anthony Edwards just absolutely destroying teams as a scoring tandem, and then you mix in some of the other peripheral players, and Mike Conley's now coming off the bench for 22 minutes.
It just right now feels like everyone they try at point guard beyond Conley, it feels forced. DiVincenzo is not a point guard. In fact, I think it stunts his game.
Yeah. He's a spot up shooter and an off ball mover who's really valuable and can handle, but the can handle has turned into like, oh, he should be handling the ball all the time or much more often than maybe he did in New York.
I feel like is not really suited. Like, he does a lot of things well. He's actually been great, but I don't know that that's his game. Ant, of all the things that you ask Ant to do, Point Ant is probably my least favorite adventure, and it very much times feels like an adventure. So I'm just saying that, and I do think Julius gets moved. There's a way. You know what? I'm disappointed because in watching him occasionally with the Knicks, I really liked his game. To use your term from a couple of days ago, he does have some dog, which I liked. And not dog isn't dogging it, but some dog to his personality in his game. But it just feels like when you watch him on a nightly basis play, you don't really know what you're going to get necessarily, and you got to sort of poke and prod him.
Yeah.
So I don't know that he's a great fit, and it all might come down to the fact that he knows he's going to opt out, and in his mind he needs to get his, which is not a great thing. But there's just some areas here that I would like to see, and it doesn't need, like, Fox that'd be a huge splash. I'm just saying I think you need a viable alternative when Conley can't play or is on the bench, and I don't think you have that right now.
You do 100%. Yeah. It's the last 5 minutes of the game they just lost, the second game against the Warriors it's tough though, because, all right, well, we need Conley to be a floor general, but you also need someone to hassle Steph Curry. And then Nikhil is oftentimes your just best glue player.
Right.
So I'll throw, if you did somehow trade Julius in a deal that brought you back a De'Aaron Fox, which I'm going to give myself more cover here.
You gotta take as much as you can.
The other option for a third big would be the guy right now who is carving up the G League. 13 games for the Iowa Wolves so far this year, averaging 24 points, 12.5 rebounds on 50% from the field. 6'10" Leonard Miller, who you drafted in the second round. He is dominating the G League in his 13 games so far. So you could that could be, all right, listen, Leonard, hey, Lenny, now that Julius is gone, Naz is the starter, but you're going to get 12, 15 minutes a night. And Luka, I don't know. I don't know if I feel, I think Luka's a garbage time player, just kind of watching, but Julius Randle, probably not going to be here next year anyways. So if there's something you can do to make your team better for the next 2 or 3 years, you might as well explore that. So why don't you explore Padraigs sometime this week? One of those red beers that you've been talking about, those red ales. I absolutely will. And boy, do I have good news for you, Flagrant listeners and viewers, because if you have been saying, Sports Dad, you've been talking about Padraigs Brewing for quite some time now, the official beer of the Sports Dad, but I can't find it. Guess what? They've got a distributorship that you are going to be able to find them in liquor stores and in bars. Here's what I want you to do. Go into your bar in the next few days and say, give me a Padraigs. And if they say, we don't carry that, sir or ma'am, you say, here's the deal. You can. I want you to. Can you please explore it? I'm going to tell you right now, Padraigs on tap. It can happen. Same thing.
The red is fantastic. If you want Padraigs at your liquor store, you just ask for it. They will get it now. Padraigs, it is sweeping the Twin Cities, soon to be outstayed as well. It is delicious. It's a beer from brewers that only brew beer. That's right, Padraigs. They're not into other things. They're not trying to come up with 18 different drinks. They just want to make sure that your beer is fantastic. And I'm going to tell you right now, they succeed.
Wolves' upcoming schedule. So they've got Monday through Thursday off this week. And then they host the Lakers on Friday night. The last time, probably, LeBron James steps foot inside Target Center. Unless you meet him in like the playoffs or the play-in.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to go.
And then at Wemby and the Spurs on Sunday before Karl-Anthony Towns and the Knicks come to town Thursday, December 19th on TNT. That's going to be.
Are you going to be in the building?
Very festive. I would love to be in the
Are you
building
coming?
for that. Yes. Yes.
Press seats up top. It's fantastic. Great view.
Yeah. And they have all these because of the play-in tournament or the in-season tournament NBA Cup. Between December 8th and December 19th, they only play 2 games. So they actually get a lot more practice time, which could be helpful for a team trying to gel. I would say a team that didn't get training camp together, these practice days are actually pretty valuable.
So this is like a camp.
It kind of is. It is like an in-season camp in some ways. Yeah. So, all right. Kyle, I believe, back on the podcast tomorrow, and a random Wolf of the Week, and then probably a Feedback Friday episode too here on Flagrant Howls. He is the sports dad. I am Phil Mackey, and this is a Timberwolves lifestyle podcast.